Hello everyone. Today we are going to see the fifth unit in history, which is social and religious reform movements in the 19th century. Social and religious reform movements in the 19th century. So the learning objectives. What we are going to see in this lesson is the influence of Western ideas and Christianity in creating a new awakening in 19th century British India. So how Western ideas and Christianity influenced India in 19th century, how it created a awakening. That is the first thing that we're going to see. And second one is contestation of people in social and religious activities, such as opposition to sati system, slavery, untouchability, and child marriage. Opposition to idolatry, rituals, and superstitious beliefs. Opposition to idolatry, which is worshipping of idol, doing rituals to it, and other superstitious beliefs. The next one is contribution of Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, Theosophical Society, and Aligarh movement to the regeneration of India. So various monuments or various Samaj like Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, Theosophical Society, and Aligarh movement were found to regenerate India. The roles played by prominent personalities in bringing about this awakening among Parsis and Sikhs. How the prominent personalities were involved in awakening Parsis and Sikhs, that we are going to see. And finally, social movement of Jyotiba Phule and reform movements in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. These are the topics that we are going to cover in this lesson. Let me give you a quick introduction. Okay, I hope it's clear. So introduction part I'm reading. Okay, English education introduced with the object of producing clerks also produced a new English educated middle class. So English education was not only its objective was not only to produce clerks, it also produced a new English educated middle class people. So this class came under the influence of Western ideas and thoughts. Since they were given English education, obviously they'll have the influence of Western ideas and thoughts, right? Likewise, Christianity also had its effect on this newly emerging middle class. Okay? Though small in number, the educated middle class began to take a lead in political as well as in reform movements. They might be small in number, but they achieved by taking lead in political and reform movements. Okay, the Indian reformers were, however, quite hesitant to subject their old notions and habits to critical scrutiny. So how can one adopt to westernization completely? Obviously they'll be having the touch of their old culture, right? So they were hesitant to leave their old notions and habits. So what happened was, instead they attempted to harmonize both Indian and Western cultures. Their ideas and their actions helped to mitigate social evils such as sati, female infanticide, and child marriage, and various superstitious beliefs. So their ideas and actions help them fight against social evils like sati system. I'll tell you what sati system is. A widow jumps into her husband's pyre either voluntarily or by force. This is called sati system. And female infanticide, killing up of female child is called female infanticide. And child marriage, you know what child marriage is, and various other superstitious beliefs. So they fought against all these social evils. The reform movements of 19th century in the realm of religion fell into two broad categories. So it was classified into two categories. first one is reformist movement and the second one is revivalist movement. I'll tell you what reformist movement is. So reformist movement is a kind of social movement where there will be a gradual change in the society. There will be towards a positive empowerment. There will be the people will slowly change. The society will slowly change into a positive thing. That is called reformist movement. And revivalist movement. Revivalist movement is wherein there will be an importance to a particular religion. A religion will be spoken about. That is called revivalist movement. Examples of reformist movement are Brahmo Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, and the Aligarh movement. And examples of revivalist movements are Arya Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, and the Deoband movement. There were also attempts to challenge the oppressive social structure by Jyotiba Phule in Pune, Narayana Guru and Ayyankali in Kerala, and Ramalinga Adigal and Vaikunda Swamigal of Tamil Nadu. So, in certain parts, certain people fought against certain social evils to bring a social structure. Okay. The two other notable social reformers of Tamil Nadu are, how can we forget, Periyar and Ayodhi Dasar. So we can see in depth about them in Unit 10. Next, we are going to see early reform movements in Bengal. Rajaram Mohan Rai and Brahmo Samaj. Rajaram Mohan Rai and Brahmo Samaj. Ram Mohan Roy, duration 1772 to 1833, was one of the earlier reformers influenced by the Western ideas to initiate reforms. So Rajaram Mohan Roy was the earliest reformers who was influenced by Western ideas. He was a great scholar, well versed in Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian, and English, apart from his knowledge in his mother tongue, Bengali. Ram Mohan Roy was opposed to meaningless religious ceremonies and all forms of pernicious social customs. So he was not okay. He was not feeling okay for all meaningless religious ceremonies and other social customs. So he wanted to preserve continuity with the past. Though he wanted to preserve continuity with the past, he wanted to capture only good things from the past, not the wrong beliefs. So in his religio-philosophical social outlook, he was deeply influenced by monotheism and anti-idolatry. He was influenced by monotheism. Monotheism is the belief that there is only one God. There are no various gods. There are no various gods like Allah, Jesus, Shiva, Ganesha. No, there is only one God. And anti-idolatry, doing puja to worshipping idols. He was against that. Based on his interpretation of the Upanishads, he argued that all the ancient texts of Hindus preached monotheism and worship of one. So Upanishads is the collection of Vedas. So based on his interpretation of Upanishads, he argued that all the ancient texts of Hindus preached monotheism or worship of one God. Deeply concerned with prevailing customs of sati, child marriage and polygamy, he published tracts against them and petitioned the government to legislate against them. So what happened was, he was not happy with the customs like sati system, child marriage and polygamy. I told you already what sati system is. And next is polygamy. Polygamy is a man marrying so many women, one husband and so many wives. That's called polygamy. So he published tracts and petitioned the government to legislate against them. He also advocated the rights of widows to remarry. Okay, and he wanted polygamy to end. His opinions were resisted fiercely by Orthodox Hindus. Since all these were followed by Hindus, Hindus were opposing him, and yes, that's it. He appealed to reason and humanity and compassion of the people. He visited the crematorium of Calcutta to try and persuade the relatives of widows to give up their plan of immolation, self-immolation. He went to Calcutta and met the relatives of widows to give up their plans of self-immolation. His campaign, self-immolation is something wherein you burn yourself. His campaign played a key role in forcing the Governor General William Bentinck's legislation abolishing sati in 1829. So he was successfully able to abolish sati system in 1829. Ram Mohan Roy condemned the subjugation of women and opposed the prevailing ideas that women were inferior to men. So, according to him, men and women were equal. He he strongly opposed on the fact that men are superior to women or women were inferior to men. So he opposed that. He strongly advocated education for women. He wanted every woman to be educated. He gave his full support for the introduction of English language and Western sciences in schools and colleges. Ram Mohan Roy found in the Upanishads a new revelation of one infinite divine being, the eternal Brahman, while Hinduism, as he saw in the daily life around him, was a perversion of their teaching. So, in Upanishads, what he read was Brahman should teach good to everyone, but in real life, he didn't find that. Ram Mohan Roy founded the Brahmo Samaj in 1828. On 20th August 1828, he opened a temple in Calcutta. So in that temple there was no image, and he also laid down a saying that no religion should be reviled or slightly contempted to or contemptuously spoken of or alluded to. A religion should not be published or should not be praised or should not be continuously spoken of, or it should not influence people. That was what the saying said. The Samaj forbade idol worship and condemned meaningless religious rites and ceremonies. The Samaj opposed idol worship, and also he was against meaningless religious rites and ceremonies. However, from the beginning, the appeal of the Brahmo Samaj remained limited to the intellectuals and enlightened Bengalis. Though the Samaj failed to attract people from the lower sections of society, its impact on the culture of modern Bengal and its middle class was quite significant. So though he could not attract the people from lower sections of society, the intellectuals and the middle class people were enlightened by Brahmo Samaj. Next, we are going to discuss about Maharishi Debendranath Tagore. After the death of Ram Mohan Roy in 1833, Maharishi Debendranath Tagore, duration 1817 to 1905, the poet Rabindranath Tagore's father, carried on the work. He laid down 4 articles of faith. In the beginning, there was nothing. The one supreme being alone existed who created the universe. So he said, in the beginning, there was nothing. There was only one supreme being alone existed, and that supreme being created the universe. Second one was, he alone, the supreme being, he alone is the God of truth, infinite wisdom, goodness, and power, eternal, omnipresent, the one without second. He is the only one. There is no substitute for that. There is no second. There is no option. The third one was our salvation depends on belief in Him and His worship in this world and next. So, our salvation depends on believing in Him and worshipping Him in this world. And the final article was belief consists in loving Him and doing His will. Not only we should believe Him, but also we should love Him and we should follow Him. We should do His will. Next is Keshab Chandra Sen and Brahmo Samaj of India. Debendranath was a moderate reformer, but his younger colleagues in the Sabha were for rapid changes. The greatest of this, Keshab Chandra Sen, duration 1838 to 84, joined the movement in 1857. He was greatly influenced by Christianity, believing in its spirit but not in the person of its founder. He believed in Christianity but not the founder of it. But in 1866, a split occurred in the ranks of Brahmo Samaj. There was a split, there was a partiality kind of thing. So Keshab left the Samaj and founded a new organization. Debendranath's organization therefore came to be known as Adi Brahmo Samaj. After Keshab had his 14-year-old daughter married to an Indian prince, in contravention of the Samaj's condemnation of child marriages, the opponents of child marriage left the Brahmo Samaj of India and started the Sadharan Samaj, which developed anti-Christian tendencies. So since there was a ranking system in Brahmo Samaj, he left and found a new organization called Adi Brahmo Samaj. Later what happened was he got his 14-year-old daughter married to an Indian prince. So people were against the Samaj, strongly opposed child marriage, right? So people were not okay with that. So they left and started Sadharan Samaj, which developed anti-Christian tendencies. They were not following Christianity. Okay. Next is we are going to see about Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar.